Plants vs Zombies, one of the most popular and most recognisable video game franchises in the world, with over 5 games, with many more titles in the franchise too, from third-person shooters to arcade games. However, how did this franchise evolve? From a cartoony tower defense game to one of the most popular video game franchises of all time? Well, get ready to start planting, as we're about to go through the history of Plants vs Zombies. The first traces of Plants vs Zombies development began around 2004, believe it or not. George Fan, the creator of Plants vs Zombies, was working at Blizzard at the time. George had previously worked on a title with PopCap called Insane Aquarium, which released back in 2001. Insane Aquarium was a similar game to Plants vs Zombies, however, featured fish vs aliens instead of Plants vs Zombies. George originally worked on Insane Aquarium with PopCap, however, he was offered a job at Blizzard. He wanted to finish Insane Aquarium with PopCap, however, wanted to work at a massive game studio like Blizzard. What made matters worse was that Blizzard didn't want him to work at another studio whilst working with them. This was a very difficult decision for George. Blizzard did eventually allow George to work on Insane Aquarium with PopCap in his spare time, whilst working at Blizzard too. George decided to take this option. He was now pretty much working 2 full-time jobs at once. After 2.5 years of working at PopCap and Blizzard at the same time, Insane Aquarium's development finally wrapped up, so George went back to working at Blizzard. However, he thought he couldn't keep up with the other game developers at Blizzard, so he decided to leave Blizzard in 2004 and start working on a game independently. This was the birth of Plants vs Zombies. Once George started working on this game independently, he didn't know what to make the game about. However, he soon got inspiration from a Warcraft 3 tower defense mod. At the time, George had been playing on the Nintendo DS a lot, so he wanted to make a tower defense game for the DS, utilising the DS's touchscreen. George originally wanted to make a sequel to Insane Aquarium, with 2 different aquariums on the dual DS screens. However, he removed the fish from the game and instead turned his attention to gardening of all things. He then got the idea of making a tower defense game featuring a garden which is defended by plants. Although this was a far cry from what PvZ would eventually become, as aliens were still in the game instead of zombies, the groundwork was there. George then started developing the game and designing the characters at the same time. However, there was one thing that got in his way. George started to notice that there are already a large amount of casual gardening games on the market, so he needed to come up with something to make his game different from competitor titles. This is where the zombies come in. Sure, there are already a ton of zombie games around in the early 2000s, however, in the market that George was targeting with his game, there were little to no casual games featuring zombies, so George now had a concrete idea for the game. The main thing which made Plants vs Zombies unique was that the designs of the zombies weren't really dark and spooky. They were instead more light-hearted designs, whilst still looking like zombies. The plants on the other hand were more violent and deadly, especially with the chomper and the pea shooter seen in the games. After George had been working on his game for a few years, he got back in touch with PopCap, the company which he worked with to make Insane Aquarium. PopCap had recently opened a new office in San Francisco, and George was convinced to go and finish developing the game with them. Although he enjoyed making the game on his own, the extra resources and support of PopCap would be very useful and would speed up development a lot. So, he decided to go and finish developing his game at PopCap. PopCap did like George's game a lot, however, they wanted to scale it back a bit to make it more simplistic like their other games. If this happened, mechanics such as the custom plant decks would have been scrapped. Although thankfully, George managed to convince PopCap to step out of their comfort zone and try something new, which would eventually pay off. One thing that troubled the developers was finding a name for the game. The name they planned was originally Plants vs Zombies, however, the team thought it was too simplistic, so they considered changing the name to Weedlings, before leaning towards a new name, Dawn of the Dead. But, in order to get the name Dawn of the Dead, PopCap had to get permission from George Romero, the director of the original Dawn of the Dead movie. So, George dressed up as a zombie and recorded a video of him asking for permission with some gameplay footage, then sending it to him. However, George Romero sadly didn't give them permission to use the name. Therefore, the developers chose to use the original name, Plants vs Zombies, which we know it as today. Soon after, the developers gave Laura Shigehara the task of composing the original game's soundtrack. The game's soundtrack would become one of the most iconic parts of the original game, with its instantly recognisable theme song. With development finally wrapping up, the original Plants vs Zombies launched on Windows and Mac on May 5th, 2009, and would prove that all of the development of the game from George leaving Blizzard to make his own game would pay off big time. The game was an instant success, receiving many positive reviews from critics, getting around an 8 out of 10 from most of them. Plants vs Zombies was eventually ported onto a lot of platforms, with each port having different unique features, such as iOS, Android, the Xbox 360, PS3, Nintendo DS, DSi, Badder, Windows Phone, PS Vita, BlackBerry Tablet OS, and a BlackBerry 10. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of versions of this game going around. Anyway, back to the history. The game won many awards such as the Casual Game of the Year, Outstanding Achievement in Game Design from the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, also receiving nominations in Game Design, Innovation, and Best Download Game in the Game Developers' Choice Awards. Plants vs Zombies was also picked by GameZebo as one of the best games of 2009. Plants vs Zombies quickly became a pop culture icon, with many different references in all sorts of media, such as TV shows and other video games. Anyway, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, so let's go back and look at the different modes the original game had. Plants vs Zombies featured many different modes, such as Adventure Mode, which contains 5 different areas with 10 levels for each area, pretty much the game's main mode. Minigames, small fun bonus games which are unlocked by playing Adventure Mode. Puzzles. Puzzles contain a total of 18 levels from 2 main puzzle modes, with a mobile exclusive one too. Vase Breaker, where you break vases in order to get a plant seed or a zombie. Last Stand, a series of different puzzle modes exclusive to the iOS and Android versions of the game, where players are given a different amount of sun on each level, 3,000 for day and night levels, 4,000 for pool and fog levels, and 5,000 for roof and endless levels. The difference between this puzzle mode and the minigame with the same name is that when a player removes a plant, they get refunded the sun. And iZombie, where you play as the zombies to destroy cardboard cutouts of plants. Survival Mode, the second largest game mode, with 2 difficulties, hard and normal, with each mode having different areas. In normal mode, each round has 5 flags, and each hard round has 10 flags. There's also an endless survival mode, where players have to survive as many flags as possible. And finally the Zen Garden, where players can care for their plants. You can also buy items to help look after your plants from Crazy Dave's Twiddy Dinkies. The game featured 2 main characters, Crazy Dave, the leader of the plants, and Dr. Zombos, the leader of the zombies. The game also featured over 50 types of unlockable plants, such as the pea shooter, sunflower and walnut, and over 40 zombies, such as the standard zombie, conehead and football zombie. Plants vs Zombies brought major success for PopCap, however, the success attracted major attention from other companies, such as in this case, Electronic Arts, better known as EA. EA saw not only the success of the Plants vs Zombies franchise, but other PopCap franchises too. So, in 2011, EA ended up acquiring PopCap for $650 million. This buyout changed the future of PopCap forever. After the acquisition, EA put an emphasis on making free-to-play games with in-app purchases, and also wanted to make more sequels to PopCap games, in this case, Plants vs Zombies. George Fan didn't like the idea of games which are free-to-play but contained in-app purchases. He was angered by EA's new direction, and was then laid off as part of a group of 50 employees in 2012, although it isn't confirmed whether George was laid off or not. Over the years, more PopCap layoffs did happen, downsizing PopCap even more, going from around 500 employees before the buyout, then going to 100 to 200 employees afterwards. PopCap and EA soon got to work on more Plants vs Zombies games, with a spin-off game called Plants vs Zombies Adventures being announced, which was a Facebook exclusive game, and was announced on the 26th of March 2013. A trailer was released for the game on the 20th of May 2013, which was met with positive reception by the public. The game finally released on Facebook on the 30th of May 2013, but was sadly shut down and discontinued on October 12, 2014. The game had 3 different modes to play, including Town Building, which lets players build up their town by buying decorations and building, as well as planting plants. Road Trip is the standard gameplay, setting up plants and killing zombies, and Brain Ball, which lets players invade other players' towns in order to get brains, and the 5 players with the most brains on the leaderboard could get gems. The game also boasted 4 different types of currency, including coins, Zombucks, gems and sun, which can all be used in various different ways. Like every Plants vs Zombies game, it added in various new plants and zombies, including the bee shooter, asparagus, flaming pea, bamboo shoot, barrel zombie, imposter zombie, mall cop zombie and the rocket zombie. Shortly after Adventures released, PopCap and EA wanted to continue making more games in the Plants vs Zombies franchise, after the resounding success of the original Plants vs Zombies, and the franchise as a whole, with the next title, Plants vs Zombies 2, the direct sequel to the original, going into development around this time. Plants vs Zombies 2 was released on the 9th of July 2013 in Australia, and the 15th of August 2013 for the rest of the world. Android users got the game later that same year. The game added lots of new things to make the sequel stand out from the original, such as new worlds which can range from ancient Egypt to the far future, new plants like bok choy, snapdragon and spring bean, plant food, piñata parties, new zombies such as swashbuckler zombie and a prospector zombie, as well as new boss fights and unfortunately, microtransactions. The game also removed minigames apart from Vase Breaker, as well as iZombie and achievements. The game mostly received positive feedback from users and critics, despite use of microtransactions. Critics mostly praised the game for its addictive gameplay and graphics, and the game got high reviews from Metacritic, Edge, Eurogamer, GameSpot, IGN and Wired, which ranged from around 8 to 9 out of 10. The Plants vs Zombies franchise also started to enter new territories after the release of Plants vs Zombies 2, with more merchandise being produced along with Plants vs Zombies comics. Shortly after Plants vs Zombies 2's release, PopCap and EA wanted to expand the Plants vs Zombies franchise into different genres, with a Plants vs Zombies third-person shooter being released on the 25th of February 2014, known as Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare, which released on the Xbox 360, Xbox One, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4 and Windows. Garden Warfare was a major step forward for the series, as it managed to transition the original Plants vs Zombies formula into a brand new team-based multiplayer and co-op third-person shooter, whilst keeping the charm from the previous 3 games. Garden Warfare's main features were that you could now customize your plants and zombies with cool gear and accessories, which you could get from sticker packs. You can get sticker packs using coins. Yes, this game also has microtransactions. Needless to say, Garden Warfare also allowed 4-player online co-op, by taking on huge waves of zombies and brand new bosses. You could also now choose to be on the plants or the zombies in a 24-player multiplayer action game mode. You could also play traditional split-screen co-op as well. Garden Warfare transitioned these core gameplay elements into 9 individual modes. Garden Ops, where a group of players have to defend a garden from zombies until Crazy Dave returns. Gardens and Graveyards, where zombies fight to turn a plant's gardens into graveyards in an expanding map. Team Vanquish, where plants and zombies face off in a competition to be the first to vanquish 50 opponents. Vanquish Confirmed, which is a variation of Team Vanquish included with a DLC. Gnome Bomb, where plants and zombies fight for control over the Gnome Bomb, with its devastating power perfect for destroying the opposing team's garden or graveyard. Welcome Mat, a version of Team Vanquish where customization is not allowed. Getting vanquished a lot makes you respawn with more health. Mixed Mode, a playlist of different game modes. Subordination, where you must capture the 3 gardens scattered around the map. Holding a garden gives your team points. And finally Taco Bandits, another game mode included with another DLC, where the plants must defend their 3 tacos from the zombies until time runs out. Garden Warfare, like I've said, also had multiple DLCs released for the game. The game also has 8 playable maps, with gardens and graveyards having 4 exclusive maps. The game also had 4 main plants, Sunflower, Chomper, Pea Shooter and Cactus, whilst also having spawnable plants too which can be placed in flower pots included in the game modes. Overall, Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare mostly received positive reviews, with most critics giving the game a 7 out of 10. After the release of Garden Warfare, PopCap eventually wanted to expand the Plants vs Zombies franchise into the arcade industry, with PopCap collaborating with Sega Amusements in early 2014 to develop a Plants vs Zombies arcade game known as Plants vs Zombies The Last Stand, which included shooting zombies with a pea shooter gun to get the highest score. Sega Amusements and PopCap would go on to develop another whack-a-mole style Plants vs Zombies arcade game in 2016. Anyway, back to the main games. After the success of Garden Warfare, EA and PopCap quickly got to work on a sequel, eventually leading to the release of Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2. Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2, by the name, is the official sequel to the original Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare, released on February 23, 2016 for North America, releasing 2 days later worldwide for the PS4, Xbox One and Windows. Garden Warfare 2, for the most part, is quite similar to the original, however, introduced some new changes, characters, and new game modes. The game also introduced 6 new hero plants and hero zombies, including Rose, Citron, Colonel Corn, Super Brains, Captain Deadbeard, and the Imp, each with unique abilities. The pre-existing plants and zombies from the original Garden Warfare were also featured in this sequel. Garden Warfare 2 kept most of the original Garden Warfare's game modes, however, modified most of them, with players now having the ability to play all the game modes in solo. Garden Warfare 2 also introduced a new mode known as the Backyard Battleground, a new hub world which replaces the original main menu from the original Garden Warfare. The Backyard Battleground also allows players to practice fighting plants or zombies, whilst also serving a new pathway to different game modes and missions. Other new game modes were introduced too, such as Soil Survivors, a search and destroy type game mode which comes in the Mystery Portal. In Soil Survivor, the players face off in 6 vs 6 matches. Cats vs Dinos, a new last team standing style game mode with no respawn. Boss Hunt, a cooperative game mode that is, usually, held once a month from the last Thursday 3pm GMT until the last Monday 3pm GMT. Infinity Time, a cooperative endless mode where players either take control of a giant robotic triceratops or a giant robotic cat, and must vanquish waves of gnomes in order to earn time shards. Herbal Assault, a game mode which is the opposite of gardens and graveyards, where players either capture as plants or defend as zombies various objects. Solo Ops, a solo version of the Ops modes, in which the player can choose up to 3 AI helpers and swap between them. Graveyard Ops, an alternative version of Garden Ops, where players now play as the zombies to defend their graveyards from different waves of plants. And finally, Flag of Power, a King of the Hill inspired mode, in which the players must defend the Flag of Power from each opposite faction, who will constantly send out waves of enemies, with each wave being harder than the last. Garden Warfare 2 throughout its lifetime introduced many different Mystery Portal game modes, and other game modes too. Because there's way too many to mention in this one segment, here's a full list of them. Like its predecessor, Garden Warfare 2 was definitely a brilliant game, and was praised by critics, and improved on its predecessor too, getting mostly 8 out of 10 from reviewers. With the resounding success of the previous titles in the franchise, EA and PopCap didn't want to let the success and the popularity of the franchise burn out, so they got straight to work on a new title, known as Plants vs Zombies Heroes. Plants vs Zombies Heroes was released onto iOS and Android on October 18, 2016 worldwide. Before release, a trailer was released onto the Plants vs Zombies YouTube channel, and the trailer has over 25k likes and almost 7 million views, so it's safe to say that the fans are excited. The gameplay is very different from the classic Plants vs Zombies experience, but it has a very interesting take on the franchise. The easiest way to describe it is Hearthstone, but with Plants vs Zombies characters. There are many different characters in the game to play as, with some of the most notable being Green Shadow, Solar Flare, Chompzilla, Spuddo, The Smash, Infinity, Rust Bolt, Brain Freeze, and many more. While Plants vs Zombies Heroes unfortunately hasn't been updated since 2018, the game is still fully available. While it may not be the standard Plants vs Zombies gameplay, it definitely is a fun time for anyone who decides to give it a go. The next 3 years saw the popularity of the Garden Warfare titles continue to soar. However, there wasn't really any main series titles announced. However, another Plants vs Zombies third-person shooter would eventually come after the success of the previous 2 titles. Plants vs Zombies Battle for Neighborville is the first Plants vs Zombies third-person shooter to drop the Garden Warfare name from the title. I'm guessing PopCap did this to make the title stand out more from its predecessors. Anyway, Battle for Neighborville introduces a large influx of new features, game modes, and characters, with a slightly updated interface and logo compared to its predecessors. In terms of gameplay, Battle for Neighborville's gameplay is quite similar to the previous Garden Warfare title's gameplay, having 20 different gameplay classes with 6 new ones, which are sorted into 3 groups: attackers, defenders, or support. Each camp also now has a new team play class, which allows players of the same class to combine forms when attacking against enemies. There is also a variety of new and pre-existing competitive multiplayer game modes. Battle for Neighborville also has player versus environment open zones, which allows the player to explore, find collectibles, and complete quests. The game also still has standard split screen support. Battle for Neighborville also retains most of the previous Garden Warfare game modes, such as Garden Ops, Graveyard Ops, Turf Takeover, Team Vanquish, and Mixed Mode. However, this installment brought some new game modes into the mix, such as Neighborville, replacing the Backyard Battleground, an updated social region split into 3 sections: Zombie HQ, the Zombie Base, Dave Manor, the Plant Base, and Giddy Park, a combat area. Like the previous Backyard Battleground, you can still customise your character in the plant and zombie areas, as well as access all the multiplayer and single player game modes. Free roam regions, different PvE areas where players can fight against AIs by themselves or with friends. You can complete story missions and other activities such as completing different challenges with different areas such as Town Centre, Mount Steep, and Weirding Woods. Battle Arena, a 4v4 elimination mode where plants and zombies fight against each other to vanquish the opposing team. Battle for Neighborville also now has weekly events, where players can compete in weekly game modes that change every week. Most plants and zombies return from the previous 2 Garden Warfare titles, however, some new ones have also been added to the game, such as new classes for the plants such as Nightcap, Snapdragon, Acorn, and Oak. 2 new weeds have also been added such as Wildflower and Terracotta Wildflower. For the zombies, some new classes have been added too, such as the 80s Action Hero, Electric Slide, Space Cadet, and Wizard. 2 new zombies have also been added, known as TV Head and Bucket Head. As for maps, Team Vanquish has 7 maps known as Colossal Fossil, Daisy Drive, Pressure Pier, Rocky Flats, Ruiny Ruins, Z-Tech Factory, and Z-Tech Oozeveyor. Turf Takeover also has 6 maps, known as Peachy District, Turning Point, Loggy Acres, Goopy Gully, Preserved Pastures, and Tourist Trap Island. One thing that I find interesting about Battle for Neighborville is that it doesn't have any microtransactions. However, EA have said that they will be implemented at some point. Battle for Neighborville released on the 4th of September 2019 on the Xbox One, PS4 and Windows, with a Nintendo Switch port happening too at some point. Battle for Neighborville is still a reasonably new game, so more content will be added soon. Although Battle for Neighborville hasn't quite received the same praise as the previous Plants vs Zombies third-person shooters had, most critics gave the game mostly positive reviews, getting an average 7 out of 10 from reviewers. Since the release of Battle for Neighborville, a new main series game hasn't been released. However, an upcoming title was previously announced in June 2019, known as Plants vs Zombies 3, the 3rd game in the original Tower Defense trilogy. Plants vs Zombies 3 transitions the classic characters into a new 3D aesthetic, like Garden Warfare's designs, but less detailed. Not everyone is happy with this change, as it looks a lot less graphically appealing than the original designs. But these designs do somewhat keep the original charm from the originals. I don't really mind the change personally. Anyway, Plants vs Zombies 3 is set in Neighborville, to go with Plants vs Zombies Battle for Neighborville. The game is also now displayed in portrait mode by default now, to make the game more phone friendly. I can see why they did this, as it allows the game to be easier to play with one hand. Not everyone is happy with the change from the looks of things though. In terms of gameplay, it's quite similar to the original games from the looks of it, with some slight adjustments such as the lawn being resized to a 5x8 size, and sun now being generated at a rate of 1 sun for every 3 seconds. Social play is also a big feature that the developers are focusing on with this installment, with faster combat and deeper synergies for the plant team. Lawnmowers are also not present in this game unfortunately. Levels are split into 2 sections, with a passive middle stage called Taco Time, which is where you can plant new plants and shovel them, and move them to feed tacos, which gives the plants taco abilities, which lasts for the rest of the level, but you do get a limited supply per level. In Taco Time, zombies cannot spawn, but sun does not generate either, so it's similar to The Last Stand. You can exit Taco Time and return to the active time of the level whenever you want. Besides tacos, other power-ups include plant food, making plants more powerful, along with cherry bombs, which explode in a 3x3 area. There is also a new map now, outside of levels, which shows all the lawns you've saved and ones you need to complete. You could choose to fight any lawns where zombie breakouts happen daily. By completing zombie breakouts, you get more seeds for plants, currency, and stars. Or you can play in the Devour Tower and beat floors to unlock more plants, zombies, features, and lawns. So far, there are 4 game modes in Plants vs Zombies 3, Devour Tower, and Zombie Breakout, which I've talked about already, Arena, and Botanic Battle. According to the developers, Plants vs Zombies 3 is not a replacement to the previous 2 games. Whilst there is no official release date, you can participate in the pre-alpha, which is available for Android and iOS. So far, fans' reactions to Plants vs Zombies 3 have been mixed to positive, with some people going as far as saying that the game is broken, and it doesn't stand out compared to the other garbage mobile games. Some people have even called out the game for being a cash grab, although most people do like the game. Personally, I don't mind it. As it hasn't released yet, hopefully EA and PopCap can make some changes for the better, and to make it more similar to the previous classic games in the series, and introduce more brand new features to make the game feel less repetitive and lacking, to allow it to improve from its predecessors. Although this game still retains some of the charm from the originals, PvZ3 does look to be lacking some of it though. Nonetheless, we're getting another decent game. After over 11 years of fighting zombies of our lawns, from the original to the third-person shooters to PvZ3, we've covered the whole history of Plants vs Zombies. The story of this franchise just goes to show that if you have an aspiring, unique idea such as George's original idea, it can go on and grow into an iconic video game series. Although the future of PopCap and the franchise, according to some fans, does look like it's about to take a slight turn downhill with PvZ3, due to it being reasonably lackluster compared to the other previous titles, the game is still in development, and changes can definitely still be made. At the end of the day, we're not getting an actual bad game, it's just disappointing. After all, PopCap still care about the core gameplay mechanics and design of the PvZ franchise. Overall, if the future of the series and PopCap does seem a little uncertain, with EA's vision, there is still more than enough time to turn things around. Hopefully, the war between plants and zombies can indeed continue for future generations to love.